Alright, hey guys, and welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be talking about Hydro Thunder Hurricane, which is available on the Xbox 360 as an Xbox Live Arcade title for 1,200 points, which is also $15. Now, first of all, I want to say I had never played the original in this series. There was actually a Hydro Thunder game, which was on the N64, Dreamcast, PS1, and in the arcades. And apparently a lot of people have played this game because while I'm playing Hydro Thunder Hurricane online, everybody's reminiscing about the original, and sadly enough, I never played it. But I'll tell you, I love this game so much that I am definitely going to seek out a copy of the original Hydro Thunder in no time because I really enjoyed this a lot. First of all, this is a racing game, and it's an arcade racer, so it's over the top, and it basically boils down to like a hybrid between, say, a slower-paced F-Zero meets Wipeout meets Wave Race. More so Wave Race meets Wipeout. I say F-Zero because the ships, they can kind of look a little bit futuristic. But really, the handling of the boats, basically, they're very drifty, so this is unlike any racing game that you've played before, obviously, unless you played the original. The wave physics and everything, you really have to make your turns sharply, and it really feels like you're driving on top of water. And obviously I make the comparison to Wave Race 64, and Wave Race Blue Storm on the GameCube is because this game has a huge emphasis on the racetracks constantly shifting and changing because you're obviously racing on water as a boat. And, you know, events might happen in the level that will cause large waves, small waves, and you have to adjust to these waves to drive throughout the course. And it's very challenging. Now, one of the complaints I have with it, though, is every time you race, it's the same thing. So once you memorize a track, you know when the big waves are going to hit. You know where the harsh weather conditions are going to be. You know, it's asking a lot for a $15 downloadable title, but it would have been really awesome to sort of have changes. You know, maybe just have 5 different sets for each level. And there are 8 race tracks, so there's 8 different tracks to race on. But I'm saying, you know, every time you race on these tracks, it's the same thing. So maybe it would have been cool if, say, one time you race on it and there's a big wave in a certain part of the level, but the next time it's, you know, there's not that big wave and it's, you know, smaller little waves. So after a while, after you've raced on the tracks for a while, it really starts to feel familiar. But that's not to say that these racing tracks are not simply awesome. Now, I'll say that they had a demo for this game where it allowed you to play 10 minutes online. And at first, I really wasn't sold. I tried the single player and, I don't know, it just felt a little bit bland. I started on the first level, but then I played this level that basically was during a storm, a lightning storm, and the wave patterns were like really harsh. It was a pretty difficult level. And suddenly I get up to this part where like a huge Poseidon god comes out of the water and sends the waves crashing, and another level, there's like a Hydra that comes out of the water, and all these different events that happen throughout these levels. One level in particular, Area 51, you go through a portal and suddenly you're like in this alien world and then you warp back to the current world. The levels are so unique and so much fun. It just screams arcade racer, and these are my favorite kind of racing games. I simply can't get enough of over-top racers. I mean, I don't have a problem with a Forza or a Gran Turismo game, but these are the kind of racing games that I love. Now, I do want to mention that this is a racing game that does not use any kind of weapon power-ups, so really it's all just you making the right turns and also collecting the boost power-ups. The boost power-ups are actually very, very important in this game. They're all throughout the levels, and the thing that you want to try and do is you want to try and chain your boosts together. So let's say you pick up one boost, you want to try and keep that boost going and pick up the next boost and keep boosting and then pick up the next boost, and you can pretty much keep an endless boost going constantly. And it's important to know where all the shortcuts are, and there's plenty of shortcuts in this game, believe me. I've played this for quite a few hours and I'm still trying to find all the shortcuts that there are in the game. And usually when you take a shortcut, you actually find a red power-up boost, which is the highest form of boost you can get in the game, which gives you a lot of boost. So the main objective is just keep boosting, master your turns, pick the right ship. My personal favorite ship is the one that you see me racing with here, the Rad Hazard. It's actually the most difficult boat to master in the game because it has the poorest handling. But once you master it, it has really great acceleration, and it's technically the best boat in the game when it's in the right player's hands. Besides the boost, there are 2 other gameplay mechanics to keep things a bit more interesting. One of which, as long as you have turbo boost in your meter, you can press the X button to make your ship jump into the air, which is used to reach certain, shortcuts or jump over other boats. As well as a drafting mechanic, which basically, as long as you race behind another boat, you'll get a speed boost, but this seems very, very lenient. You don't really have to be directly lined up with the draft of the boat in front of you. You know, as long as you're racing behind another boat, you'll get the speed boost. Now, besides the regular race mode on the single player, there's also a ringmaster mode, which basically has you driving through hoops that are in the water, and you know, you drive through them in sequence and you get boosts. There's also gauntlet mode, which has mines and barrels that blow up instantly on contact throughout the levels. So as you're driving through the levels, you know, you gotta avoid those sharp turns and all these barrels of explosives that can potentially blow your ship up. And overall, I mean, a lot of these events are pretty repetitious because besides Ringmaster, Race, and Gauntlet, there's only Championship Mode, which is just a mix of, you know, all three previous event types. So really the single player is not the main draw. I will admit, this game is all about the online. It features 8-player online in race mode and rubber duck mode. So really quickly, let me explain what rubber duck mode is. Basically, there's 2 teams of 4. One team will have to pick one person to be a rubber duck, which is basically a boat made out of a rubber ducky, and the second blue team will have to pick a rubber duck as well. And the objective is just to make sure that your duck on your team gets to the end of the level first. It's pretty hectic because it's just 8 cars trying to ram each other, and it's a little bit mindless because pretty often than not, you're not going to really do too much to help out your rubber duck get to the end. But it's a different gameplay alternative to the regular race mode, which is my preferred mode, where it's simple 8-player, get to the finish line first, online play, which I find highly enjoyable. When you get in some rooms with some good players, it's really competitive, everybody's bumping into one another, crashing each other into the walls, and it's just a lot of fun. To keep things more competitive online, the further back you are, you know, if you're, say, 4th to 8th place, the boosts that you pick up will give you more boost than, say, if you were in 1st or 2nd. So the first place player will continuously have to race very well to stay in the lead because the people behind them are going to be getting better boost power-ups, and this is just to balance things out so that, you know, one really skilled player can't come in and keep getting first. It gives the guys in the back a shot. And if you can't tell, the graphics in this game are also awesome. Especially online, the frame rate rarely ever drops. I mean, it maintains a steady frame rate the entire time through, and the wave physics just look really, really great. Now, there are 2 different track types. There's the type where you just get from point A to point B with no laps. So the level is really unique because you never see the same thing twice the time that you're racing through it. And there's constantly events happening and changing in the level and everything. It's just really fresh and unique. And then there's also the levels that have 3 laps, and these levels do change things up every once in a while to keep things fresh as well. Whereas, you know, the first lap might be pretty mundane, but the second lap, a couple of different things may happen, and then in the third lap, like, all hell will start breaking loose. One level in particular, one of my favorite levels, is the level where the Hydra monster on the 3rd lap comes out of the water. Of course, I've never actually gotten attacked by this monster, but it's just a really cool effect that I thought adds a lot to the game. Practice does make perfect in this game, though. You can't really jump into this right away and expect to be good, especially because when you go online, you're almost expected to choose from the 3 top-tier boat classes, because if you choose any of the lower tiers, you're really not going to win. So that's a pretty big downfall for me as well, because if you want to be competitive online, you basically have to pick from 3 certain boats in order to, you know, maybe finish first. And it'll take some time to get used to the handling on these boats, because you have to drift in the air and position your boat a certain way so that when it lands you won't go crashing into the wall, and you can crash fairly easily in this game. So overall, I would highly recommend this to racing fans because you just can't go wrong with this, especially if, you know, you love arcade racers. You got a pretty decent single player, but the online is the main draw. And would I recommend this if you don't have online? Yes, but the $15 may be a bit steep for the content that they offer because it may get a bit stale after a while, but I really enjoy the multiplayer and I highly recommend it. And I'm sure they'll come out with DLC in the future, you know, new tracks and stuff to keep things fresh.